Sorry we're late. Please stand and rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. We will begin. I gotta find my agenda, sorry. There we go. With our presentations tonight. Our first presentation is recognition of our graduating Board of Ed student representatives. So we would very much like to thank Tyler and Aaron for being with us, especially you, Aaron, for the last 2 years. And we wish you well next year in your endeavor. Where are you going to be going next year, do you know?
Next year I'm going to be going to UConn at the West Hartford campus.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for coming and giving us all the information that you share with us, and we wish you luck in your future.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here and allowing students to come here and share the student side of the education system.
Thank you so much for coming. Tyler is not here tonight, so we will ask Mr. Rocket to share that with him when the time comes. And the last person we would like to recognize is Mr. Baldwin, to thank him so much for always being here, setting up when we go to all the different schools and everywhere else. And I know it's a pain in the neck, but he does a great job and we really appreciate it. So let me thank you, Mr. Baldwin, for everything you do for us. Now we'll move on to item 1.2, which is Friend of Youth Services Bureau, Mr. Slobody.
Dr. Conway, I believe we are being asked to come over this way. And I know this is painful for you.
Yes.
But I also want to squash the rumors that Mary and I decided to retire at the same time so we could open up a charter school.
That's not a rumor.
And I still think it should be later on.
Yes.
On a serious note, but a wonderful note, for the past 7 years, the Eastern chapter of the Connecticut Youth Services Association has honored people for their support of youth service bureaus in our 14-town region. And this year, the youth services staff decided that we wholeheartedly wanted to thank Dr. Conway for all her support. I know in my conversations with Mary, she says, this is just what I'm supposed to do. But I can let you know that there are many of her colleagues in other towns across this state that don't hold the same value about youth service bureaus that Dr. Conway does. So on behalf of the Vernon Youth Services on the Eastern chapter of Connecticut Youth Services Association, Mary, we wanted to thank you as a friend of youth services. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you, for all that you do, and we're going to be missing both of you next year for sure. We appreciate everything you do. Now we will move on to item 1.3, our technology presentation.
Mrs. Buchanan, I think Mr. Baldwin would like you to lead school. It's on, it's warming up.
As we're waiting for it to warm up, I would like to introduce the two people at the table if you're not familiar with them, and you certainly should be then. On my left is our newest addition to the staff, not quite a year ago. Karen Lipsky came to us from the south, originally from the north, transplanted down and is now back in Connecticut, and we're delighted. Karen is our technology integration specialist. This is a person who is a whirlwind of energy and activity and knowledge. She goes in every classroom, K through 8, certainly K through 5, and any in 6 through 8 who invite her in. as well. So she is integrating technology into the classroom. She's doing just a number of things that you will be absolutely amazed with. And to her left is Mr. Brian Wright, who is a technology education teacher at the high school and also the department head of that department 712, I think. And Mr. Wright is also our webmaster after school. He has taken on another job for us. So you can see the changes. I went in to look up a board policy and went, whoops, about 3 weeks ago because the website is changing and becoming more friendly. To everyone, so I'm quite pleased with his work. But together they have paired to share with you some information about the direction of technology in the Vernon Public Schools, and I'm amazed and pleased to share this with you. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Conway. Okay, we are also the co-chairs of the Technology Integration Committee. It used to be called 21C. So if you hear TIC, it's technology integration. As we begin, we want to make sure that you recognize that technology is a tool. It does enable creativity, collaboration, communication, and it's continuing to evolve. The SAMR model of technology integration is a method of seeing how computer technology may impact teaching and learning in the classroom. It was developed by Dr. Ruben Pudentura, and we're going to take you through a few examples of how it plays out here in the Vernon schools. At the very bottom, it's at the top of this list, it's substitution, when technology is just merely an enhancement. We work all the way up towards redefinition, where the use of technology is transformative. And as we move from substitution towards redefinition, you'll see how the level of student engagement increases.
It's similar to a Bloom's taxonomy, but with a technological mindset behind it.
Substitution is the same activity as you would have done with paper and pencil. If you've got students who would take a pencil or paper and keep a journal of their reading or their writing, we're taking it and using a word processor instead. Or you've got a teacher who's using a smart notebook that just has a shade tool. It's kind of reminiscent of the old overhead, and you take that piece of paper to hide what you don't want the students to see yet. And there's value in using these, but we want to work higher with our students and have them really be more part of it and having products that are going to go outside of the classroom. The next level up is augmentation. Students type their reading responses or answer questions in a Google form. The improvement here is the fact that it goes to one central location for the teacher in a spreadsheet, that they can look at their students' writing or their responses to a test in one location on a spreadsheet versus going to all the different computer folders for the student writing. We're also working to make smart notebooks more interactive. It's not an overhead. Bob Testa has been really taking the leadership on that as we move to the new Eureka Math program. We've got 3 particularly that stand out: Anna Smith, Kiara Mambara, and Carrie McDonald, who've helped to organize on a J drive that's shared through all the district. We're making notebooks that tie into these different math activities that have interactivity as part of them. Taking it one higher level, now we've got Kid Blogs, PB Works, which are private web pages, Google Docs and slides, and we've got peer collaboration as an option. With the PB Works, they're private web pages, we're using them from 2nd grade through 5th grade. In one place, the teacher and the student at the same time, 24/7, can see that same document on the anytime you get the internet. So the teacher and the student can still see it, or in the session before, it was going to the teacher and the student never had access to it again. Another one is a QR code created by a student with a reflection on a book or a character. What's really nice about this is the student types the information into the QR code generator. Another student can scan that QR code and see what someone else thought about a book, a character, or something that was going on in the story. So instead of that student's thoughts dead ending in their writing journal, their reading journal, it's out there for someone in the future to go and see, oh, this is what so-and-so thought of it. And we've used QR codes in a couple other areas.
Yeah, the QR code helped me advance to the finals of Cupcake Wars by putting them on my mason jar. I was very happy to use them.
And Teresa Hoyt over at Center Road, they got their second grade iPads last week on Friday. And today I stopped in there and their students were all excited because they had scanned QR codes and got right to internet sites to find information on the product, on the country they were studying. So it's called quick response, is what QR stands for. It's a very valuable tool. This is a friend of mine, the Pacific Northwest Trioctopus. As adults, we look at this and I see my friend from high school who's getting ready to graduate snickering because he knows an octopus can't live in a tree. But it's a very engaging site that looks real, it has current stuff, it has links that look and work and are updated, and there are videos. And unless a student really takes some time and thinks about all the different pieces of website evaluation, they could get pulled into the fact that there are some octopuses that do live in trees. Because the internet brings its own challenges. Imagine if for a moment a library where books are intermixed with student work, promotional flyers, and intentional propaganda, and that's the internet. Just because it's out there doesn't make it real. We've got the ability right now, all the way up to second grade, to have iPads, 5 per classroom. So we're starting to get the teachers using the iPads for creation tools. There were 10 of us that went to a conference at UConn and opened up a whole new world of possibilities to some ways we've been using them. And I was over at Maple Street and there were these students and they scanned a picture of their work into the Show Me app and they were telling how they solved a particular problem. And one of the students was realizing, oh, I made a mistake on my paper. Can I go back and fix it? Absolutely. And that's self-evaluation. Christina Dwyer is using it to have the students record themselves reading. Then they go back with their checklist. Did I read slowly? Did I stop at punctuation? So we can also do that on a Chromebook with something called Screencast. Coding, you'll notice the principal at Lake Street is in there. She's a big fan of us going towards coding. Code.org had a day of an hour of code back in December. Students from elementary, middle, and high school all took part in this. Several of us have gone on to get trained by Code.org. It's a great opportunity to learn problem solving and collaboration to solve a problem. And there are opportunities beyond that at the high school.
And a lot of what's really neat about some of the programs that are coming out for learning coding now is it's like a building block software, so you don't actually need to know the actual lines of code, you just have to understand what a function, like if-then statements, for example. And these modern programs, one of them is designed by MIT, it's called Scratch, and ultimately a few students in my graphic arts class during the game design unit were able to build small interactive video games just by dragging and dropping small pieces of code together. And we had a conversation in class, we said, wouldn't it be great if we could turn this into an actual app or an iPhone game, because that's a good way to make some money. So we said, well, I bet somebody out there has a similar program, and sure enough, there's a couple out there that'll actually take that Scratch file, use that building block, and allow the kids to eventually go and make their own apps. So it's amazing how much it's evolving and how much coding you can do now without knowing, exact Java and C++ languages.
And then now we're ready to make the leap up to the last one, which is redesign, where an activity is inconceivable without technology. And this was Skyping between Teresa Hoyt at Center Road and Crystal Flaherty at Maple Street. Paula Hughes had been working with Teresa's class in something called a grand conversation after doing a read aloud. Crystal's class had done some of that, but as the two classes read the same book and had a grand conversation through Skype, Crystal's class was able to refine that process a little bit more, and learn from the other class and meet students that really don't live very far from each other. We had some students publishing original writing. What I loved about this activity was the fact that students from Allison Sincola's class at Center went home and signed up for this online EPUB site to create their own ebooks just because they wanted to, because they could. They could drop them on their iPads and continue that work later on. On the right-hand side is a picture of an app called Puppet Pals, which we put on all of our second grade iPads. These are in third grade. Amanda Warner's class at Northeast, she got these through a grant. And we've got a little video to show you just what it looks like in the classroom. This is a small group actually led by Amanda, but this could be done with a small group after they've had practice learning the process together. A little iMovie trailer.
So how does the current infrastructure that we have here in Vernon help support the vision and, applying that SAMR model? VCMS and RHS, as you guys know, have the full wireless setup. The elementary schools have plans to expand that wireless network. I'm not sure the exact timeline on that at the moment, but we are evolving to it, which is very exciting.
And necessary.
Correct. Google Drive and the whole Google Suite is kind of in a little beta testing period right now, but it is live. The teachers have their Google accounts back, which allow them access to some really awesome things we'll talk about in a minute here. And we have our Aspen student management system, and we're continuing to train staff on that system and opening up a lot of possibilities in that system for creating teacher pages, having contact with parents. It's very exciting. So one of the most exciting things about becoming a Google Classroom and getting into the Google Drive is that we have that cloud storage now and 24/7 access to it. So in years past, if I was working on something late at school, I'd have to scrounge around for a thumb drive or a free memory card to bring those files home. Now all the teachers will have access to a drive that they can store on the cloud, and they can access that from any point that has an internet connection or a Chromebook. Even their cell phones. So it's going to be a very powerful tool for our teachers in the future. One of the key pieces of software that you hear with those Google accounts is Google Docs. Google Docs is their version of Microsoft Word. It's not going to replace Microsoft Word because I don't see the corporate industry replacing Microsoft Word with Google Docs anytime soon. But it's important to have that cross-training and understand how a word processing program works. And can I take what I do in Microsoft Word and apply that in Google Docs. What's really fun and exciting about Google Docs too is its collaborative nature. I can share that doc with another colleague, I can share that doc with a student, and we can all edit it together. The people who are creating the Literary Arts magazine of Vicki Nordland's class were sharing poems and artwork through Google Docs with us so that we could generate one gigantic magazine file, and it totally streamlined the process this year to have that collaborativeness. Another great piece of Google is they have their own built-in software called Google Forms. It's basically their version of a survey tool. If you've ever used SurveyMonkey, that's another one, but this one is now built right into Google. We had the brainstorm this year, and Aaron can attest to it in Yearbook, that in tallying up the superlatives, it became a cumbersome process. So this year we tried it with Google Form, and we had all the students with a couple laptops set up, and we gave them the QR code link on their phone, and we gave them an education as to what a QR code was as well, which is exciting. And they were able to input all their nominations for superlatives into the Google form. We were able to then export that as a CSV file and bring it into Microsoft Excel and quickly scan over and determine all the winners in a process that would normally take us 2 days. But Google Forms can be used for a variety of survey purposes, and I think one of its most exciting features is you can limit its access to those on the V domain. I actually found this out by accident when I created a survey, sent it out at 4 in the afternoon, and Mr. Rocket emailed me instantly, "I can't get into it." And I said, "Ooh." But we were quickly able to adjust that so that he could access it outside of the V domain, but that would allow a teacher to create something within their classroom and keep it not, full public, but just within access to people within the Vernon drives. And then Google Slides is a presentation software that students and teachers will have access to, which is exciting. One of my favorite parts of the Google Docs as well is not only can we share these docs, but Google allows us to embed a lot of their documents. And when I say embed, what it allows you to do is it links to that live file up there in cyberspace. So one of our first testing of this was the Rock News newsletter. And I sat down with Kim Vernon, and we, instead of posting up a new PDF of the school newsletter every single week, I said, let's make it a live document. Let's post the embed code for your newsletter on your Google account. We'll share it with everyone, and now when you make updates to that newsletter, it'll automatically update on the website. Then what we can do is we can save little snapshots of that file each week, so we have an archive of what the files have been throughout the year, but it allows her to have that live access and then just send out those reminders that the document has been updated when she feels it's necessary. Another exciting thing that we're working on right now is there's a plugin for our websites called Google Translate. And I've heard rumblings around the diverse families that we have in town. It would be great to make sure that all of them can get the message. So I've actually been messing around with this for the past 2 weeks. There's one small error in the coding that I'm working on. I'm hoping to have that fixed by the end of this week or next. But we should have the ability to select the language we want our website displayed in so that all of our families will be able to get the information that they're looking for. This leads me to talk about Aspen now. And what's exciting about Aspen is it fully integrates with this Google Suite that we have. And so now that it integrates, when I set my preferences and I link it with my Google account, I'll now have inside Aspen, our student management system, access to all my files that are stored within Google, which is very exciting, especially as a teacher, because it's, sometimes it can be cumbersome to have to go in 3 different places to find a file, and to have it all integrated with one piece is just very exciting. As far as the pages aspect of Aspen, it allows teachers to have their own individual web pages. We have had debate before as to having these pages be hosted on our website versus hosted within a system like this. And sometimes there's a teacher that wants to share work, and sometimes there's questionable material that they're not sure it wants to be shared with the full public, but they definitely want to share it with the parents of their students. So because Aspen is a secure system that you can only get into by having a username and password, it became very apparent that VPS.com can become the place to look for information, and Aspen can become a place to sort of broadcast that day-to-day information with our parents and our classes. So this is an example of what an Aspen page looks like. It has a bunch of editable forms and boxes that you can apply to that. Next one. They have a banner where the teacher could use that to introduce themselves, introduce their class, post class outlines. There's a blog function if teachers want to go and reflect or share some links of future lessons that they might do. There's a forum where the students and the teacher can engage in conversation. And there's even a survey function similar to Google Form, but it's contained within Aspen. And what's really exciting too is because Aspen is built using basic HTML coding, you're able to use a lot of the same HTML shortcuts to embed the Google and YouTube documents that you want to make your page a little bit more dynamic. So it'll be very exciting in the future. Another piece of Aspen is it has a curriculum planner built in. I thought this was very exciting. Once you were linked within Google, you could take something like a rubric or a project sheet that had the outline as to what the content was. And if I drag that file onto the planner, it not only created a weekly planner based on the due date that I set and the start date that I set for that project, but also displayed it in a nice color-coded form. And once again, when I drop it in, it also queues up my gradebook. And you can set up, I believe, different notifications as well, so students know that a new assignment has been posted. Communication is fantastic.
And looking ahead, we want to continue the pages we have on the Vernon site. This was one that captures some of the technology integration ideas, the examples we discussed at our monthly meetings. There are links out to web pages that explain how to use QR codes or explain Sandra further to other teachers. Just a good resource for teachers. We've also got a current showcase under district technology, under technology news. We've highlighted some of the activities going on this year, but we know we need to reach deeper and further out and really share what's going on in the classroom, because most of these examples are at the elementary level, and we know there's a lot going on at the middle and high school as well. And Vernon Middle School recognized that as they started pulling together some ideas looking forward into the next year.
So one of the things we want to do next year as the TIC committee is have a monthly showcase and recognize a teacher in Vernon each month that's just doing something with technology that's above and beyond, something exciting. And to share tonight, I wanted to share something that's happening in my classroom, in a creative writing classroom. Karen had brought me the idea of this website called Minecraft.edu, and I was sharing it with some of the students because a lot of them play this Minecraft building game, and I'm more of a Super Mario myself, but this is so beyond me, but when I brought the idea to the students, they ran with it and they got so excited about it. I said, as we did our graphic design unit, we talked about how package design and video game design is basically identical. When you create a package, you're basically taking a 2D form that's wrapping around the cardboard that is the package. And when you're creating a video game graphic, you're creating a 2D graphic that's wrapping around the wireframe. So what we did was we looked at the simplicity of Minecraft, and we actually showed the students how they could go into the game itself and create their own graphics for the game. And they got so excited about that, it just took off. And sometimes as a teacher, you have to step back for a minute and just let their minds go, because they got so excited about this project. And I said, well, why don't you make the auditorium at Rockville High School? And they're like, oh yeah, Mr. Wright, no problem. So for their final project in graphic arts, 5 students, they choose an independent project to finish off the year. So 5 students decided to work together and build the auditorium for Rockville High School in Minecraft, which was, as you can see up on the screen, you've all been in that auditorium. I wish I had video of it, but it was pretty impressive. And then I said, well, don't stop there, guys. And they said, okay. And they kept going. So that's in progress. What's interesting is how sometimes you have a great idea, and these kids are all friends, they're all connected, and their great idea spawns their other friends' great ideas. So I found out just last week that in the advanced creative writing,
No, this was my group in academic writing.
oh, there we go.
For the education project.
So they had to design a school, and a bunch of groups were designing the school on paper. And Aaron, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but this one group of highly intelligent students decided, well, we're actually going to build a campus in Minecraft. So they started from scratch, and to fulfill the requirements of their school project, they built the campus in Minecraft. And the next slide has another couple screenshots.
Just a quick thing about it is we looked at all the other kids for just kind of coming up with ideas for what they wanted the classrooms to look like. And we said, well, why don't we just build it? And because we have that ability, I think it took probably over 100-something hours, but we did it. Was it a bit over the top? Probably, but it was fun and it was a productive use of time, and I think it came out nice.
And once again, that shot there was just an overhead representing, and if you go into it, you have all the buildings, and you can see the inside of one of the classrooms. It's absolutely unreal the amount of planning and collaboration and thought processes and multitasking. I'm speechless still how they were able to put this together.
Right here on top we have the cafeteria. Up top there's the lunch line with some tables, and down below there's more tables and a couple chests with coats on for students. The bottom picture is one of the main classroom buildings. I believe it has 8 classrooms in it. I'm not entirely sure though.
My 8-year-old nephew can attest to the fact I can barely function in Minecraft. And I happened to stop in their classroom last week, and one of the students was showing me the code. He can turn the lights on and off, and I am in awe.
So, back to our technology integration committee, where we're hoping next year to share with all the teachers and staff in Vernon different and creative ways that the technology is being applied in the classroom, and we thank you guys for your time this evening.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions before we let you go?
I think we need a round of applause for Aaron and his team.
Well, thank you so much. It's just a lot to take in. Mr. Burke?
I would just like to add, I want to thank them very much. I work very closely with both these folks on technology integration, and just in the past 10 months, we've, Dr. Conway and I have seen such a tremendous growth of the integration of technology. We talk a lot about, the past 10, 15 years, we've seen a lot of just buy computers. These folks have really taken it to the next level about how do we use these tools to enhance our education. So I really have to thank them for their hard work. And oftentimes I'll just throw a project their way. This is what we need, and they will come up with incredible ideas within a very short time. So we are very lucky to have both these folks as well as the entire committee, and a lot of our teachers who are doing incredible work as well. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and it was an amazing presentation, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
By the way, the name of our school is Trumpleton Academic Institute. Trumpleton Academic Institute.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Wolf?
Motion to move the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Mrs. Bush? Second. Would anyone like to pull any items? I have a few. Oh, sorry. A, C, and E. So can we, so we will vote on B, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. Okay, all those in favor? That's unanimous. The few that I pulled on, the first one on A, page 8. It's just a grammatical error under 7.3. It says Mrs. Fisher reported that you attended. It's supposed to be that she attended. Not a big deal, but. And that was all I had for that. So,
Motion to approve as amended.
second, Bush. All those in favor? Thank you. Now for C, page 11, that was just my name was misspelled in the middle of the page.
Just what was in the stuff?
My name,
Oh, page 11.
yes. third paragraph.
Motion to approve item C as amended.
Mrs. Bush?
Second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. And then the last one, I really actually had a question. On page 18, there was made a reference to flipping the classroom, and I just wanted to know what that meant.
Master Bird or myself could certainly answer this, and maybe he'll expand on it. But flipping the classroom is doing the work outside the classroom, rather than coming into a classroom and reading an article to discuss. That is all done prior to coming to class, so you are prepared to actually do group work or create a project. And so a lot of your personal learning, one-on-one learning is done outside, so you can do a lot of collaborative learning in the classroom. Anything else you need to add? No? Thank you very much. Okay, that was all I had on that one. Mr. Gould.
Motion to approve as presented.
Mrs. Bush? Second. Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we move on to item 3.0, Secretary's Report. Opportunity for the Board of Education to add or delete agenda items. Would anyone like to add or delete an agenda item? Okay, we'll move on to item 3.2, Waterville High School Student Representative Report. Aaron.
Good evening, Nick. So once again, I'd just like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here and for allowing a student to come and share their side of the story of the education system. I think it's really important, and I hope that it continues. I don't know if you already picked student reps for next year or if we haven't, but either way, I hope that's a trend that continues.
Thank you, we definitely will be.
Tonight is I forget the exact name of it, but it's a poetry reading. It started something like 40 plus minutes ago now, so it's a little too late to attend it, but it's nice to know it's happening. I know some students are receiving awards there, and from what I read of the poems being read tonight, that's going to be a good evening. Really, I don't have a lot to talk about. The year is kind of winding down, and there really haven't been any issues at the school. I'd say things have been going well, so, and on the high note, I would say that I think overall it's just been a good year. It's probably been one of the better years that I've been at Brockville. Over the 4 years, it feels like it's been a big change. Coming in, it was a bit negative, and it just kind of felt like everyone was tense all the time. But that environment has kind of slowly but surely faded away, and it feels more accepting and welcoming now. Whether or not that's because I'm older and because I know everyone now, or because there's been a legitimate change in the school, I can't exactly say. I think that there's probably a combination of the two. But that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and again, thank you for coming all these evenings, and we wish you luck next year. I'm assuming you won't be here on the 22nd since you graduate on the 16th?
I don't know yet. Probably
Okay.
not. Probably not.
Well, enjoy your summer and good luck in school, and thank you very much for all the time you've given us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Can I take my name, please? Am I allowed to do that?
Yes, you are. Thanks so much, Aaron. Take care.
Have a nice day, everyone.
Good luck.
If I don't see you again, good luck with whatever you choose to do.
We'll see you at graduation. See you at graduation. So we'll move on to item 4.0, Community Forum. Opportunity for comments on agenda items, potential future agenda items, or general information provided to the board from citizens and community organizations. Is there anyone who would like to address the board this evening? Okay. Move on to item 5.0, 5.1 curriculum measures of academic progress, spring testing data. Mr. Burke.
All right, thank you. What you have before you, obviously, is the scores we have for the fall and the winter. This is, again, based on our new assessment system through NWEA. It's called MAP. The one for the elementary schools is called the MPG, or MAP for primary grades. The important thing to note here So one of the important things to remember, as you can see, you'll see the 2 scores there for every grade K through 9. You'll see a fall and a winter score. Obviously, we are very pleased with the progress that the students are making based on these scores, but an important aspect of this is that the bar from fall to winter also goes up. So you can imagine, if it was set at 10, now the bar is set at 12. So even with the bar increasing from fall to winter, we had the same amount of students plus a number of students reaching that bar. So it's not just the same measurement from fall to winter, and then next year it'll be the spring as well. Basically the measurement changes. And the fact that we were able to continue to grow those same students and add students on top is fantastic news for us here in Vernon. We were very pleased with the results. Are they at the numbers that we would like to see? We are seeing improvements. As you can see, we're seeing excellent results from kindergarten, continuing on through 1st grade, specifically in reading. We can see the rate from 71 to 81 in 1st grade. We are very pleased with that, and we're seeing a tremendous improvement across the board. But one of the things that we were concerned about, for instance, was the 9th grade. We thought, are these students taking this seriously? And through the process of teachers speaking to them, the administrators speaking to students, that they are taking it seriously, and we saw growth there as well. And the wonderful thing, the backstory about this really has been the training associated with this. We had 2 full days of training, both in November election day, and then eventually, because of a snow day, we had in April. The teachers are really taking on this information, using it. It's immediate feedback. The students take the test, they get the results the next day. They're able to take a look at that. There's very specific information. You can dive down into very, very specific strands. So it's not just they get this 1 score in math. It goes down into very specific concepts within math. And they get the students who did not do well on that specific concept. So out of 20 students, if they didn't understand adding double-digit numbers, these 3 students didn't get that, they can now address that the next day. So we're seeing incredible information. We're getting teachers on board with this. They're being able to use it. They're getting immediate feedback. And the final note that I'd like to add tonight is that we are continuing to look at our assessment practices, and we'll be reducing the number of assessments, specifically at the elementary level, for next year. We had our administrators get today, as a matter of fact today, to take a look at both what information we get from the NWA and our other assessments. One thing to note as well is that we're, for instance, let's say we're no longer using the F&P next year. For every child, we will continue to have that as a tool. Let's say we're not getting enough information on 1 or 2 specific students, or we need to find out more information. We still have these other assessments as tools to track for other students that we need more information. We call that our SRBI process, or you may have heard as the RTI process, which is essentially the response and intervention. It's a process to look at groups of students. We want good instruction in the classroom, but if that's not working for a group of students for, again, a specific concept, we may move them to a level 2, and then we're going to monitor their progress on an ongoing basis. So while we are removing some assessments for all students, we will hold on to them for future use as necessary. So I have any questions if you have.
Mr. Stanton?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Mr. Burt, I was curious why language only started in grade 3.
Thank you, I apologize. That is just the process that NW provides us, that they only recommend that through 3 through 12, is that actual assessment. That's language use, more grammar, that they felt, I believe, this is again what the NWA told us about that assessment, it's not appropriate for K through 2. One other note, thank you for reminding me, is that the high school does plan moving this up to the 10th grade as well next year. So we will have a full spectrum of the district from K to 10 next year. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
If I might add, remember this was the inaugural year, and so we wanted to do it twice, give teachers training in between so they would know what to do with the data. That has occurred. They had a second day of training in April, first day in November prior to the first administration, and their day in April was amidst the second administration. So starting in the fall, there will be very narrow windows of testing. This year, in the spring, it was a very wide window because of SBAC testing and all and CMTs and all of that. And so teachers and schools were given a lot of leeway as to when they were going to do this. The window will be very narrow next fall, and I'll have it wrong, but the first 2 weeks, full weeks in September, 2 weeks maybe towards the end of January, and 2 weeks at the end of May. And so those 3, we should see bars similar to this, but there will be 3 of them. And the purpose of that is to inform instruction. So the first one, the teachers will be using that to set their goals for the year for individual students and small groups of students across their classroom with that information, and also perhaps bringing in other assessments, as Mr. Bird just said. So I anticipate next year that you'll be receiving data, certainly at mid-year. The baseline data you'll see in the fall, but it's not data that we say, look how well we've done on day 1. The data is look how far we've come with each iteration of the test. And so that was Mr. Bird's comment here is, going from 46% to 69% when the bar is moving rapidly is quite an accomplishment. Is 69 where we want to be? Absolutely not, but we need to accelerate our students' learning. And again, looking at K and 1, we are very hopeful that we will be able to maintain that, and as the years go by, those bars will continue to stay up there. Each grade level is picking up those kindergartners, now first graders, where they have been, and we'll continue that on. So next year, as I said, a smaller window, 3 times during the year, and we'll be able to look very specifically at what the students are doing. I'm hoping, not hoping, students will be setting their own goals. Right now, it might be, I was at a 241, and I know I have to have a RIT score of, I wanted a RIT score of 253. That doesn't mean too much, but the student will have the information to know that that was in reading, and what they really needed to do was work on main idea or something to that effect, so they'll have more of a sense of exactly what they need to work on in order to change that score. So their goals eventually, as they learn, will change and be more standards-based and say, I know where we need to work. So I think Mr. Bird would like to.
I'm sorry, one more piece of information. We will be sending out individual scores to students. My cover letter will indicate that we are pleased in general with the implementation of this product, but we're taking these results with a grain of salt because it was the first year we had a wide window. That we're really pleased with, even with the results, initial results, but next year is really our first full year, and we can really begin data mining, if you will, over the course of the year. So that should be going out in the next week.
Mrs. Russell?
I just want to make a comment. You say you're taking it with a grain of salt, but I'm loving these scores. I mean, you went from fall to winter. You didn't go from year to year. And in that, every area had growth. This is what a board member wants to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? No, thank you. I do agree with Mrs. Russell. This is great to see that everybody's improving, which is wonderful. Okay, we'll move on to item 5.2, update on standard-based report cards. Mr. Bird again.
Thank you. Through the chair. As you can see, I just put in a screenshot of the webpage that, thanks again to Mr. Wright, was able to put on the website. I don't know if you had an opportunity to visit it. I did create a short 6-minute video explaining both the process, the reason for the change, a little bit of a comparison to our old report card and our new report card. We also, on the website, have an example of the new report card, again, with the caveat that that is not the exact format. We will be working with Aspen, and it will not look exactly the same as the model. An example of the old report card can also be downloaded, as well as a parent guide. We had frequently asked questions. I understand there was some feedback about a month ago from the board on that. We did clean that up. Of course, we will continue to revise as necessary. And then also we gave examples of the roadmaps that we're going to be taught in each grade, and also what will be provided in the coming years. And then there was also a short survey that was available to parents. It was a 2-question to give feedback Now, this was distributed through Aspen to 2,000 email addresses of our K through 5 parents. I only have 2 responses to the survey, but both of them were very positive. We do also have anecdotal evidence. The teachers during the second trimester report card conferences did share examples, did share the brief example with parents, and that anecdotal feedback from the teachers that all the parents were very positive about the changes. So we are getting some feedback from teachers as well. We had a 2-hour early release day a couple weeks ago, and it was dedicated to taking a look at K through 5, ELA, and math, both of those elements, and taking a look at the work done. So every teacher is now familiar with their grade level work. And they were also given an opportunity through a Google survey to give us some feedback, and it was very good feedback. It was also positive feedback, but it gave us some very insightful things that we need to continue to work on. And that is our dedication to this process. Even though we have a working draft now, that's exactly what it is. We will continue to develop this and continue to refine it. We'll continue to look for parent feedback, specifically during the parent conferences in the fall, as well as teacher feedback. A couple things I'd like to remind the board of is that this has been in process for, I believe it was November 2 years ago where we started this process, and we've had over 30 of our teachers developing this in 2 teams under the guidance of our curriculum leaders. Incredible amount of work during the school year, during the summer, taking a look at other models from other districts, other states, compiling it, but really the most important piece is developing it specifically for Vernon students and our teachers and our parents. One of the concerns that did come up through the feedback process is, which is a common concern, is the Common Core. One of the things that I want to emphasize is that this is Vernon's interpretation of the standards. We are under the state, we are using the Common Core, but this is not just taking the Common Core and slapping it on a piece of paper. If we did that, the report card would be about 10 pages long, because there's that many standards. What this is we're taking a look at, now we've lived with the standards for 2 years, we've developed our new curriculum, they've adopted these standards and really changed them and adapted them to our own instruction. And you can see them embedded in there, but it's not direct Common Core instruction. I think that was one of the fears that I heard out there. So I want to make that perfectly clear, that this is Vernon instruction. This is how we've developed our curriculum. And it wasn't done by me, it wasn't done by the curriculum leaders, it was done through our teachers, the folks who are actually doing the work in the classrooms. So we are very proud of this work, and we will continue to develop it. I think that's the important piece, that it's not set in stone, and we will make sure that we will have that feedback loop from the parents and from students. The older students, we want to know what they think. The intent was, and if you saw the draft, which was in a couple of board packets ago, it's trying to develop that parent-friendly language, but still have the backing. So if you looked at one of the standards and you looked behind it, it would have more complex teacher language, to be frank. And it might, for one standard on the report card, it might be 3 or 4 of our standards that we teach on a trimester basis, all feeding into that score for that one standard. Now the teachers, the incredible thing is that the teachers have their own document of this interpretation of the report card, and it shows them exactly what they need to do to feed into each one of these standards. So it's not a guessing game. They know what to look at, they know what to develop, they know how to score it, they know how to actually come up with a score. One other note while we're here, it is a bit of a change, and I think I said that in the packet that was out there, it's also in the parent guide, is that the 3 is really the expected norm. It's a 1 to 4 scale. That 3 means that you've mastered that standard. And the way we've approached that in Vernon is that, let's say the standards you count to 100 by the end of the year. If you hit 30 by the end of the first trimester, you are making standard because you're on pace to meet the standard for the end of the year. Same thing second trimester, you're at 66. Yes, you're on target, so you're going to get a 3. But let's say you're at 100 and it's the first trimester, you would then be at a 4. Again, that's exceeding, you've now moved on to essentially next grade level work. 2 means that maybe you're at 20, so you're progressing towards that with help. And that's a typical range, 2 to 3, and that's going to take some education for our parents because they may even be expecting 4s on everything. Everyone's been exemplary. I know my kids, it's always been E+, something like that, and it really didn't make any sense to me. We just go, okay, this is great. We really wait for the parent conference to get the real story and pray. But then, so it's a little bit of education for our parents, and the level 1, that's when we typically have some significant concerns, and we need to make sure that our teachers, prior to that one coming out, have made contact with the parents, because obviously that indicates some lack of progress on the student. 2 to 3 is a normal range, 4 would be exceptional at this point. So a little bit of education for our parents and our teachers, but again, it's a developmental process, and we believe in the long run it will really suit and benefit the district as a whole. So thank you. Any questions you may have?
Anybody have any questions? I just have one. This is for elementary now. Do you foresee this moving up the chain to the higher grades?
That is an excellent question. We are looking at this in the middle school. The problem with that is, again, there's the traditional model in grades, the A through F grade, which I don't see in most elementaries. Is rare to have an A through F. So it's much more difficult to make that transition because you're used to that one grade. I think it's the wave of the future, if you will. Sorry for the cliche. But you get home on a report card, my child's 8th grade report card, she got a B in math, for instance. Well, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to me. And when you break it down, is it because she didn't do 2 assignments? So she had an A, but now there's 2 missing assignments, and it brought it down to B. So her ability is at the A, but because of her behavior, she's at a B on the report card. So it's those incredible questions. And again, I wouldn't make that decision. I don't think central office we would make that decision. We would bring that to the teachers and to the administrators in middle school and say, take a look at our current practices, evaluate that, and then bring us some suggestions. I've seen a lot of hybrid models out there where you can have the standards that feed into a single grade. So you can still have that report card saying an A, but then behind it, again, behind the scenes, you would have specific standards with a mastery, sort of a hybrid. You'd have masteries and then you'd have a single grade at the top of that category.
All right, thank you very much. Mrs. Bush.
So when you're doing this for the elementary, you have the ability level showing in a 4-3-2-1. I don't remember, but you should have like a behavior grade where possibly if the child's not completing work and things like that, then you have the behavior part of it ranked on a 4-3-2-1 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now that could work in the middle school, high school level if you're talking about their performance compared to their behaviors. So I see how that could work. It would take a lot of preloading for the parents and the students, so they realize. But that would be a way that it could be used in the middle and high school levels, because we want to know their ability.
Through the chair, it's a similar. We had this argument in my past district where a child who received a 95 on a major test in a math class forgot to put their name on it, so they got a B because it was the teacher's policy. And the parent argued their ability is an A, so punish them, give them a lunch detention for not putting their name on. But why are you going to, again, in the high school, it's a college transcript now, and this was a 30% of their semester grade, and it would lower it. So, it was a sound argument, but, having been a high school history teacher for years, there's that behavior element that's embedded in there that's, it's a strong tradition. And again, the top down, if we tried to force that, which would happen in my last district, it was ruinous. It didn't work at all. You have to really have that self-exploration of your practices and what is the intent of your practices. If your intent is to change their behavior, to have them write their name on it, is that the proper way to do it? I'm not going to say yes or no, but is this the way to do it, to take 10 points off? For me, it was a space case, 10 points off and probably happen again next week. So it's not going to change my behavior, it's just, I'm a bit of a space case. So, and it's a very good conversation to have, but again, it has to be at that department grade level to really discuss their current practices and take a look at alternatives and have that self-reflection.
So you're going to have that conversation with the people at the middle school?
I believe Mr.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, yes,
All right.
Mr. Harrison is very interested in working towards that. There is another district, Windsor Locks, that started it 2 years ago, so it's the current 6th graders and 7th graders who have totally standards-based report cards. And so next year it'll be the 8th grade, so they're moving right up through 12. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6.0, general business. 6.1, community eligibility provision expansion. Mr. Hutchins.
Mr. Abdes is coming to the microphone, and highlight this is a program we're using right now in Maple Street School, and we have the opportunity to apply to regroup our schools, including Maple and 3 others, which would give us free lunch and breakfast in 4 of our schools, which would be wonderful. Mr. Abdes.
Thank you for giving me some time tonight. I just wanted to explain to you what we'll be pursuing, the expansion of the CEP, or Community Eligibility Provision Program, within the district. Last year we applied for Maple Street School. That was the school, one school that qualified, and this year we were notified that 3 other schools were able to apply for this program. What CEP does is it allows schools or school districts that serve predominantly low-income children, it allows us to offer them free breakfast and lunch at no charge to any of the students within the school. The benefits of that, again, it expands the opportunity for students to participate in those meal programs. It also eliminates the need for households to complete applications to see if they are eligible for free or reduced meals. From an administrative side, it does not require us to perform verification on as many applications as we normally do. And it has shown, at least in Maple Street School, an increase in participation in both the breakfast and lunch programs that we've seen this year. The criteria for applying for this is you need to have at least 40% of your student population qualify for free meals without going through the application process. Those students are identified as students that receive some sort of supplemental nutrition assistance program, or SNAP, or TFA, which is temporary family assistance, homeless students, runaway students, Head Start and Even Start programs, and also foster children. So with that group of that population of students, if you are at 40% or higher, you're eligible to apply for this program. You can do it in 3 ways. You can do it either as an individual school, which is what we did last year at Maple Street School. You could do it as a district, or you could do it as a group of schools, which is the way we're going to pursue it this year. We were notified that Northeast School, Skinner Road School, and VCMS are in the either eligible or close to eligible for this program based on the percentages that the state has in their database. So when combining all those schools together with Maple Street, it brings us up to just over 40%. I'll be meeting with a representative from CSDE to review our information or review our numbers before we submit the application, which is due on August 31st, to make sure that we have everything in order to get approval before we even apply for the program. If the statistics that you have in front of you show you our enrollment in direct certified students by the 4 schools that we're going to apply and by the district, so you can see the impact of the other 3 schools, what they have on that percentage. I believe you...
It's in the folder.
It's in the folder, I'm sorry. And that's where you can see that those 4 schools are just over that 40% threshold.
Does anybody have any questions? Oh, Mr. Carl.
If I may just clarify one point through the chair, very good, Mr. Evans. This is universal free breakfast and lunch for all schools that Chris had laid out in your handout this evening. If we make application and it's approved, even though the program is geared in his comments to the statistics surrounding the low-income populations, it would provide universal free breakfast and lunch for all students.
So every child will get a free breakfast and lunch,
Correct.
absolutely, in those schools. That's really wonderful. Now, what happens if we teeter out of that 40%? If we make the application at the time of application, that's where we are? It would be annual.
If you are approved for the application, you're approved for 4 years with a 5th year extension that you can apply for in the 4th year. Each year you can review your percentages because it does have an impact on our reimbursement percentages, but you can carry those first year numbers for at least 4 years.
Thank you.
Mr. Stanton?
Next, the application date is August 31st. When is the award date typically?
We will find out. We found, I think last year we received our letter about mid to late September. It's a pretty quick turnaround, and we just received our 3-year extension letter just last month.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Hull?
I'd like to make the motion that the Board of Education approve the application for the Community Eligibility Provisions Program.
Mrs. Bush?
Second.
Any further questions or comments? I have a question. This may seem weird, but will you need cashiers in these schools now?
We will still use the cashiers in the POS system. We do it for accountability for the meals coming through the line. Also, there will be students that still have money on their account for a la carte purchases, so we will still need the cashiers.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just good question, just curious. Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the application for the Community Eligibility Provision Program. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to item 6.2, Board of Education Finance Committee report. Mr. Bucaro.
Through the chair, we had a lengthy business and finance report delivered in the finance committee meetings right before this, so I'd like to just hit the highlights, not to be duplicative. Start with the executive summary of account balances. We are currently at 96.21% of our current fiscal year local budget that is encumbered and expended at this present moment in time. We also discussed some of the drivers feeding that bottom line. We discussed magnet school tuition. At this point in time, we are $79,000 in change above or beyond what we had budgeted for, which is actually an improvement from what our original projections were at about $125,000. Mr. Burton and I will be following up through the superintendent with some additional information requested at the finance committee meeting, specifically how many students have come back to district to help feed some of those numbers. We looked at the school-based child health program. Our Medicaid numbers are extraordinary. Our reimbursement is at an all-time high of $285,592 for the current fiscal year. All funds have been received. We discussed the process briefly about how those funds will be put into a special revenue account as passed by a resolution through the town council last year. We have renewed our life insurance policy at 13% for next year, which is 13% lower than what we had budgeted. We had also discussed our budgeting, purchasing procedures for our budget for next year, and gave the update that our new budget books are in the process of being printed and will be available for the June 22nd meeting with 2 additions that you haven't seen before, the district at a glance, and the 6-year capital plan will be included, embedded right into the budget book. For board action this evening, the first items under general business that we had discussed in the finance committee meeting were 4 bid waivers for contracts that we'd like to pursue. The first one is for the West Main Learning Center. That is a currently proposed 5-year contract with a 5-year extension to currently support our adult ed program and special ed programs at that location. We did discuss in a little bit more detail in the finance committee some of the options that were explored in partnership with the town's Department of Economic and Community Development and Public Works, and we felt that this was the best option moving forward. Of note, we did tentatively negotiate renewal for the lease space that we currently occupy there at a $10,000 a year savings. And we also were able to negotiate in there some critical work to the roof that needs to be done as well. Through the chair, did you want to handle these one at a time? I think it's from a bid waiver standpoint, that might be the best way to go.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Hull?
I'd like to make the motion that the Board of Education waives the bid on the West Main Learning Center contract.
Mr. Kalina? Any questions or discussion?
If I may just clarify, that would be a 5-year contract with an option to renew for 5 years with no increase in rent.
And make that a motion as stated.
Okay, no questions or, okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you. The next item is the health insurance agent broker service contract. Very briefly, as we discussed in more detail in finance, we are currently under contract with Brown & Brown as our insurance agent broker, and that contract expires June 30th. We did go out to bid jointly with the town. Bids have been received through a competitive process, and we are in the process of reviewing and making an award jointly for the board and the town to work together with the same health insurance agent broker. However, the town's contract does not expire until December 15th, so we have about a 6-month period where we need to have an agent on file. Our current contract with Brown & Brown is for $66,000 per year. I'm respectfully requesting that the board approves a bid waiver and for us to pursue a contract and negotiate a contract with Brown & Brown for an extension of up to 6 months and up to $33,000 until the new bid can be awarded jointly for the town and the board in December.
Mr. Hull?
I'd like to make that in the form of a motion as stated for the 6 months or up to 6 months for $33,000.
Mr. Kalina? Any questions, comments? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you. The next item is Maple Street School Community School. At the last board meeting, we heard a presentation from Mrs. Trentolo about the expansion of the community school and how we can do more with the funds that we have budgeted. One option was to pursue a contract with the YMCA that had started some time ago, but for various reasons had fell through, and this was several years ago. Full disclosure, I'm a member of the YMCA Board of Directors. I was asked to help pursue, in my role as the Director of Business and Finance, the contract or a contract with the YMCA for the Maple Street School Community School, as we discussed at the last board meeting. And we've taken it to the point where we'd like to pursue that. We feel that it's in the best interest of the students at the Maple Street School and the development of the program when we discuss that in detail, more detail in the Finance Committee. It is a $30,000 or up to $30,000 contract, and because it's over the $10,000 threshold, that would require a bid waiver from the board.
And if I may also, for full disclosure, one of my sons is the program director at the YMCA.
May I ask, have we consulted our lawyer so we have no problems with conflict of interest?
To the chair, I have discussed this with Attorney Dorsey.
And everything's okay?
If we disclose that, as we have and as we did in the beginning, throughout the process, yes, that's consistent with his advice.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf?
I'd like to make the motion that we waive the bid on the YMCA contract at Maple Street School as described by the business.
Mr. Kalina? Any questions? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you. The last item for bid waiver is to support the Vernon Preschool Collaborative. This item was brought to my attention from Mrs. Buell. It is essentially to rent space at the YMCA's operated 23 Elm Street location. That happens to be one of 2 locations in town that was explored that is NIAC accredited, which is a requirement for the use of the space. We discussed for various reasons why this is in the best interest for our children. It's a $17,500 a year rental agreement, and again, I'd ask for the board's approval for a bid waiver on that.
Mr. Wolf?
I'd like to make the motion that we approve the bid waiver based on the recommendation from the business office manager.
Mr. Polino? I just want to make it clear that that $17,500 is grant funded, it's not out of our budget.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you. I'm going to jump to the next item for the board's consideration and action. That is under logistics for the Rockville High School asset disposal request. In your packet under Exhibit F is a request, as we've been doing every finance committee meeting. We're cleaning up the schools, cleaning them out. If we have equipment that's no longer of value to our operations, we want to get that disposed of properly, which for the most part will be on publicsurplus.com, where it can be sold for revenue to the town. This request before you is for furniture and various supplies and equipment, such as slide projector and carousels and so forth. These are 35mm slide projectors, and some replacement toner that we no longer can use in districts. So we respectfully request that the board approve the asset disposal request through the superintendent, and it will be sent to the town council for final review and approval.
Motion to approve the asset disposal request.
Is there a second? Mr. Colina? Any questions? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. And at that point, I'd be glad to take any questions for the finance report without getting into further details of what we've already discussed in finance committee.
Mrs. Flesh.
Now we're getting towards the end of the year, and I was not at the finance meeting. How are we looking? Are we going to be under budget, at budget, or under budget?
So through the chair, we had discussed where our snapshot in time is. We don't have final numbers at this point, but we did close the fiscal year early, so we'd be able to have the time to do our due diligence to analyze that. Actually, May 15th is when we stopped all transactions in the district. So we're still processing purchases, but all indications, especially from the major drivers, which are our special education and our excess costs, reimbursement from the state, the Medicaid, and some magnet school tuition, are showing that we will be ending this year in the black.
In the black with any surplus at all?
If we have some, we would be sharing that information with the board. I just don't have the exact numbers. We're still processing requisitions at this point.
Okay, all right, because it'd be nice to put it in our capital non-reoccurring. I think that would be nice if we had a little left.
Mr. Stansel.
Alternatively, one of the things we had discussed was the potential of using surplus this year to help pay for the work that we're hoping gets done by the outside firm, the school evaluation process. We were given a number, and we'd hoped that perhaps there might be some money this year to pay for it, rather than trying to find it next year.
Are you talking about the feasibility study?
Yes, sorry, thank you.
Mr. Picaro, is it?
To the chair, and we'll certainly come back to the board with our final numbers. We should have that information for the June 22nd meeting, or as close to those final numbers as we can, and then we can certainly have that discussion as far as how to utilize those funds.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Picaro? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move on to item 6.3, Board of Education Facilities Committee report. I know Mr. Kemp is away, so is anyone else from the committee? Mr. Linton?
Are we going to do the motion part, or?
Well, whatever you want to tell us about your meeting.
Well, two highlights was the gift from Judy Manfrey, who will be retiring this year, and her gift to the school district would be the little free library. We did discuss that, and we did approve that through the facilities committee. And the other item that will be coming up during the summer months was the Sykes grant for Vernon Center Middle School for the redoing the kitchen at Culinary Arts Science Kitchen. So
I feel bad Mrs. Manfrey was here and then she left, so I'm sorry that we didn't get to thank her for her. This is a wonderful idea, I think. So.
It is a wonderful idea.
It really is. So I'm sorry we didn't get to acknowledge her, and I'm sorry she's retiring. She's wonderful. She's been a great addition to our staff.
I assume that we're going to make a motion on this, and maybe as part of the motion is that we could send a note from the Board of Education just thanking Ms. Manfrey. I believe they Vernon Hospital are in the audience
They
this
were,
evening.
they were.
Just to acknowledge that they're present.
And is there a second to that? Bush? Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, I just think it's a wonderful idea. I can't wait to see it when it's all put on. Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. And that'll be Brian's budget, Mr. Bush.
I'd like to make a motion that the Vernon Board of Education approve the renovations to the Vernon Center Middle School Family and Consumer Science Kitchen to the Culinary Arts Kitchen.
Is there a second? Mr.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Has the Sykes Foundation approved this, or is that something we still have to request?
Through the chair, yes, the entire grant was approved by the Sykes Foundation, including this work.
I think we have to acknowledge this is a larger amount from the Sykes grant than we've gotten in many years. It's very generous.
They're very generous.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the ADA section,
Go.
Through the chair. In the original Sykes request, it was for, I believe, 5 workstations, which includes stainless steel countertops, open shelving with wire baskets, new stoves, basically consumer level stoves, along with new sinks and plumbing. For some reason, what was left out, there was a corner unit that was supposed to be ADA compliant, handicap accessible. And when we came in, it was clear to our building inspector that it was not ADA compliant. And so as part of the process, we went back to the builder, essentially said, can you give us a quote for the rest of this piece to have it match the rest of the kitchen and be fully ADA compliant, and we were able to come back with a reasonable quote. And I think Dr. Conway or Mr. Picaro could explain where those funds are coming from.
If you recall, we underwent our Office for Civil Rights compliance at the high school. It's under what we should be doing at that point is looking at all of our other schools. And so we do have funding in our maintenance budget to repair those things and to change them as we do things. And one of the responses we gave to the Office of OCR, or to OCR, was that anytime we were doing construction, we would make sure that we did that ADA compliant work. And so this will be one of those situations.
That's great. Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve the renovations to the Vernon Center Middle School Family and Consumer Science Kitchens. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Anything else from the Facilities Committee?
That's it.
That's great. All right. Thank you. Now, next is the update on the executive search process. We have conducted several interviews, and we are still in the interview process. So there will be more to report once we get through that phase. That's all I have at now. Okay. Next item is pending claims and litigation, executive session anticipated. Mr. Gould.
If I would respectfully request that in this first item that Mr. Picaro and I both be invited.
Mr. Gould?
Motion to enter into executive session for pending claims, litigations, and to invite the superintendent and the business director.
Is there a second? Mr. Lynn? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Baldwin, the board will, in the second item, the board will be taking action. So, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Mike Gerald. Thank you. I do. We won't get anything else on this. Yeah, we'll be here. They go before. Are we ready? Okay, Mr. Wu?
Motion to go into executive session with respect to negotiations and invite the superintendent?
Yes. Is there a second? Mr. Stansel, what's the new?
Yeah, change it up a little.
Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Now you can go. Sorry. You're okay, you're all set? Yep. Okay. All right. Right, Russian, who seconded that? I made the motion.
Oh, I didn't look at the time.
I was. So
I'm the invitation, it doesn't really
No, I just felt that sharing is.
But I might be slipping right in because I have a cave director's meeting before that. That's just boogie out of that. But I hate to miss that one.
That's only adult ed graduation.
15?
Yeah, very small number this year.
Oh my goodness.
Very
Why so low this year?
Okay,
Electronic stuff.
we are out of executive session. And Mr. Poole.
I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Education ratify the contract with Local 818 of Council Number 4, American Federation of State and County and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO Supervisors Contract.
Is there a second? Mr. Stanton.
And that's effective July 1. The contract runs through June 30th, 2018.
Okay. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? It's unanimous. We have one more item, Mr. Poole.
I'd like to make the motion that the Board of Education also authorized Dr. Conway to sign the memorandum of understanding between the Vernon Education Association and the Board of Education as discussed in executive session.
Is there a second? Mrs. Russell. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, thank you. Well, we have to review and update the Board of Ed calendar. Does anybody have anything for the calendar? No? And opportunity for questions from the press. The press is not here. So we have one more motion.
Motion left.
I moved on too. Mrs. Russell, all right. Is there a second? Mr. Linton. All those in favor? And it's unanimous. 26? 24? Now I can go home.